At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast. I'm Jim Salisbury, joined today by former Phillies player, general manager, and current broadcaster for NBC Sports Philadelphia, Ruben Amaro. Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning, Jim.
We're giving Corey Seidman's getting a day off. He doesn't work 3 in a row, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he gets a day off.
Chat with Corey. I mean, he sounds like our bullpen guys.
Well, maybe, and that's a interesting segue, Ruben. I don't even think I have to lay down a lot of background and a lot of context. We're coming to you on Thursday morning, and that's 2 mornings after the Phillies. We're here in Atlanta. 3 games into a 4-game series. The Phillies have lost. They won the first. They lost Tuesday and Wednesday night. Wednesday night, sloppy loss, bad loss. Tuesday night, horrendous loss because Bryce Harper single-handedly gives that team the lead with a big hit in the 6th, a big hit in the 7th, and a 2-run home run in the top of the 9th to put him ahead. 113-mile-an-hour missile off the facing of the Chop House, which is the restaurant above right field in the New Atlanta ballpark, beautiful ballpark. Anyway, I'm sitting there, and I'm it's when those type of rallies happen, it's a total frenzy. You're trying to rewrite your story, and within a minute, and get it into the desk. And I look up and I see Nick Nelson trotting out of the dugout, and I couldn't believe it. I honestly expected to see Sir Anthony Dominguez come in and close it out because he had a day off, and he was available. I thought he'd be available. I figured Knebel would be down because Joe Girardi doesn't like to use his relievers 3 days in a row. But in retrospect, Knebel wanted that ball and flat out said it. I just think there has to be a feel. And sometimes you have to bend in your policies and your rules and maybe use Knebel to close out a game that you absolutely stole and a game that would have absolutely had this resonance of emotion and spirit and fight and triumph through the clubhouse that you might have been able to feed off for several days. So I'm sorry for this lengthy monologue because I want to hear what Ruben Amaro has to say. Give me whatever you got, Ruben, your take on that entire night, that entire loss, and Joe Girardi's policy of not using relievers 3 days in a row.
Yeah, obviously a devastating loss, and I think it was doubly difficult because you had a chance to really build some momentum after an excellent game by Zach Wheeler and a nice, tight, crisp baseball game that they played, which is a tough thing to do in Atlanta at their new ballpark. Phillies have had some tough goes there, and as have other teams, but. For them to have come back the way they did, Kyle Gibson actually did a really nice job of keeping them in the game. I mean, it was a kind of a laborious effort. It took him some time to get through it, but he did, and he kept them in the game long enough for the Phillies to be able to at least battle back and gain some momentum to come up with that big base hit and home run by Bryce. But it's a devastating loss, and it was unfortunate just because you felt like there were other opportunities or other players that you could put in that position. Those last 3 outs of the game are they're very difficult. They're different, and you can talk all the analytics that you want about guys being able to pitch deep in the game and being able to throw well in the 8th inning. But the 9th inning is a different animal, and that will always be like that, and it will never change. And if you're not prepared to be able to throw in the 9th inning mentally and physically, I mean, some people just cannot do it. And in that case, with all due respect to Nick Nelson, who did a heck of a job in the 8th, he's not the guy to pitch in the 9th. And and there are organizations and people and managers who have these hard and fast rules in this day and age to protect the players. I understand them. I personally don't agree with them. I understand those policies. And yeah, I understand also, Jim, the way you think about it as far as being, malleable or changeable or adaptable in certain situations. I guess for me, the fact that he only threw Knebel only threw 9 pitches, I think, the night before. It didn't seem like there was a high level of stress for him that game, such that he couldn't pitch the next day. Again, those are policies that Joe has, and they have to respect those. I mean, I just don't personally agree with those under the circumstances. But there's so many other things that are going on behind the scenes, medically and physically, with the players that have a lot different effect. In this day and age, they are performance people and medical teams that are pretty vast in today's major league clubhouses, and they have a lot of influence on what's going on in the game today. In some ways, really great. In other ways, not the greatest for the game, in my opinion. But there are reasons, and if there are medical reasons as to why you want to protect a guy, then you got to go with those if that's what your policy is, and that's how you feel.
Yeah, and what you're alluding to is the way these staffs read data. Joe said Knebel's velocity was down a tick when he got into Monday night's game. That would have been his second game in a row. A lot of folks have faulted Joe for using Knebel that night in a 4-run game. I don't.
I do not either.
I
do not either. That is a game that needed to be. That is a game that needed to be won, and the fact that he used him in that game, I had absolutely no problem with. Sorry to cut you off there, Jim, but I don't have any problems at all with him putting him in the game, especially when he got him warmed up and ready to go.
You got to win that night's game. That night's game. How many times we hear Charlie Manuel say that night's game? Charlie Manuel regularly, when he had Lidge and Madsen kind of in their prime as closers, regularly used those guys in 4-run games because of the way the offense is today. I mean, it's boom, boom, and now it's a really close game. So you got to lock down that game. But it was low stress. And if there was a culprit that night, it was Familia and Brogdon, who let the Braves chip away to the point where he had to – the game was getting tense, and he had to go to his sure thing out there. But like you said, it was 9 breezy pitches. I didn't think it had to eliminate him from the next night because they have a policy. Like I said, I think there's got to be times when you talk to the player and the player says before the game, you say to the player, how are you feeling? Well, I'm going to try to stay away from you tonight. Everything I can do tonight, I'm trying to give you a night off. If we get in a pinch, you think you got 12 pitches in you. And the guy might say, I'm hanging. No, I got nothing. Or the guy might say, yeah, I got 12, 15 pitches in me. So you got that in the back of your mind and if your superstar hits a ball off the chop house, okay, boom, on the phone, get up. Even if you have to send Nick Nelson out for the first out to get Knebel a little more time, maybe he can get in that game and you can win what I feel like was a bonus win. On a night you didn't play well, you should have come out of there again with a win against a tough division rival. And the other thing that just gnaws at me is, when they constructed this bullpen, they were proud of the fact that they have 5 guys down there who've spent a significant amount of time closing major league games. In Knebel, Seranthony Dominguez, Jose Alvarado, Brad Hand, and Juris Familia. And 3 of those guys were down. One of them pitched earlier, and one of them didn't pitch at all. In Alvarado, and I know there's got to be trepidation putting Alvarado in close games. He's an adventure. We saw it last night, but at least he's been there. Where Nick Nelson, to me, profiles as a middle reliever. So, look, it's not a bash Joe Girardi fest. He has the players' best interests at mind, and what you said is really valid. They have access to a lot more information than we have. We have our eyeballs, and they're looking at data. Where the arm slot is, where the release point is, what the velo and the spin rate, and that can tell them if a guy is fatigued, and they want to get through a full season without having guys on the injured list, and they want to protect the health of their bullpen, because Joe is absolutely right. Who do you replace Corey Knebel with? The big quote that resonates with me is something that Joe actually said in his introductory press conference. He doesn't like to use relievers 3 days in a row because he doesn't want to wear them out early, because, quote unquote, the prize is in October. I totally agree with that. It's just that I don't think you can get to October without using your best pieces, your best players in on nights when you should be, racking up a victory. So this is a fascinating topic that we could argue and bat back and forth. But I'll give you the final word on it.
Yeah, again, I'd have never seen, I'll have to plead some ignorance here. I have not seen data, and I know that there's a lot of injuries going on in Major League Baseball. I think the injuries are being created because there are pitchers who are maximizing their velocities and their spin rates to the point where they're stressing their arms to the point of injury. Now, I haven't seen the data, and I don't know the data. Perhaps I should, about using 3 guys in a row, for instance. I just don't. I haven't seen it, and whether that correlates to injury. Now, and so I have to respect that policy because I have to plead in ignorance. That said, I go back and think about the choices that Joe had in that 9th inning. And I know that Alvarado is a guy that will put you on your seat of your pants. He does have the stuff. Now, here's a little bit of my theory, if you indulge me, on the 9th inning. The hitters, just as a group in the 9th inning, there's a tendency to be more, I don't know the best word to say. Perhaps it's panicky. Perhaps it's have a little bit more stress to your approach, because you're going to get quality stuff typically out of the pen in the 9th. And when a guy has maximum velocities and things of that nature and power, there's a tendency to swing out of the zone, to be more aggressive, to not have the same type of at bat you would have in perhaps the 7th or 8th inning. And in my mind, a guy like Alvarado may be more effective, strangely, even though he doesn't have great command. He may be more effective in the 9th than the 8th just because of that stress. This is just something that I have observed about the game, and perhaps he would have been, a better choice than, handing the ball to a guy like Nick Nelson, even though Nick Nelson threw the ball very well in the 8th inning. It's still a different animal. And so I don't know what the story was on Sir Anthony at that point. Apparently he needed an extra day. And again, we don't have that information because we're not in the clubhouse and we're not privy to it. But I just believe that that a guy like in that situation, Alvarado would have been a better choice, just for the obvious fact that I believe that there is a higher level of stress in the 9th inning for the hitter than there would be in other innings. Just a thought that I had about that.
I think that's a fascinating thought, confirming once again that these guys are human beings, not robots. if you're extra hype in the 9th inning,
Yeah, I just think and Alvarado does. He's very inconsistent in the strike zone. You can almost feel it. Like one day he'll he'll be dominant and throw strikes. But the fastball, cutter, slider combination that he throws in the ninth may be a more stressful at bat for the hitter. And that's what I feel about. That's what I feel about the ninth inning. Mitch Williams is a perfect example. Mitch Williams had poor command. Mitch Williams threw hard, and everything that came out of his hand was hard. So as a hitter, it's very difficult for you to be patient in those situations. And as a result, Mitch had a great deal of success with guys swinging at pitches out of the zone.
Those are all great points. And I don't want to belabor this 3-day thing. It's just that I think when you have these policies, you need a really deep bullpen in terms of quality. So you can, okay, we got 3 guys down tonight. We can absorb it because we got, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're all talented. And it just puts a real premium on the front office building quality at the back end of the bullpen. And, there's a big drop off to me in this bullpen after Knebel and Seranthony. And I think it's something that Dave Dombrowski is going to have to address because we have 6 teams in the playoffs now with the extra wild card team, 3 wild card teams. And I just think the Phillies are going to hover around that, even as the Mets are kind of building a 7-game lead over the Braves, an 8-game lead over the Phillies. I mean, the wild card is going to be there. And the Phillies haven't been to the postseason in 10 years, and it's incumbent they stay in it with this payroll and for a lot of reasons with the expectations and try to get to the postseason. And I still think they have the personnel to do that offensively and in starting rotation.
Yeah, but my issue, Jim, even at the outset of the season, was who was going to hand the baseball from the starter to the closer in games that were close in the 7th and 8th inning.
Middle relief?
Yeah, just middle setup relief. The more the setup guy. And I my feeling was that, and it still can be, that a guy like Seranthony, Dominguez, or maybe even Connor Brogdon, if he gets to the point where he feels confident enough in his stuff, would be able to take that step forward and not have to rely on Juris Familia and Brad Hand, who are kind of on the other side of the slope in their careers at this stage of the game. I think that they're probably better suited to pitch in the 7th. And I think there's somebody that needs to bridge that gap from the 7th through the 9th, that can be consistent enough for Joe to be able to throw out there and know that the ball game can be won. So
that's what I was kind of alluding at. I think 2 months before the trade deadline, I like the rotation. I think the offense is going to at some point wake up enough to keep them in it, have some runs, some peaks and valleys. I just think Dave, 2 months before the trade deadline, that's going to be an area he's got to be looking at, the bullpen, that bridge man, whatever you want to call it, that setup man to get you to the back end. Because, I mean, Seranthony is carrying a heavy load. It's because Joe trusts him. It's because he's done well. Knebel's carried a heavy load. He wants to carry a heavy load. He wants to save ball games. He's feeling good. He wants to get back out there on the free agent market next year. But I still see I think the bullpen kept them out of the playoffs the last 2 years. And right now, to me, it's an issue with 44 games into the season. I would say issue number 1 is the inconsistency of the offense. Your take, put your GM's hat on. I always thought a GM kind of, breaks the season up into maybe quarters or thirds. And, that first third is, okay, what are we? That second third is, okay, how can we fix it? And that third third is, boom, let's try to go. But you got to stay close and throughout all those thirds. Put your GM hat and tell me what you're looking at with these Phillies after 44 games, what you like, what you don't like, and where you might be going if you were in that role.
Well, there's no question that this team was built on offense, right? And the combination of some guys not being very consistent and the fact that they faced some pretty good pitching, I think has started this season off very inconsistently. Some of these guys, Kyle Schwarber and Castellanos, are much better run producers than they have showed so far. I mean, there's 3 guys that are really swinging the bats pretty darn well. Obviously, Harper is one. Segura's been phenomenal, particularly in May. And Alec Bohm has really come back and swung the bat very consistently, moving the line forward, getting on base, doing some things, hitting the ball to the right side. He's done a nice job now that he's in the 2-hole of kind of anchoring that down. How long that will last, I do not know. But listen, they signed Kyle Schwarber and Castellanos so that they can score runs and they can out hit people and actually give that bullpen a cushion, right? To give them more cushion. And if they were giving more cushion, then if they give up 2 or 3 runs, they're still winning the game. I believe that that they have to hit to win. And if they're not going to hit, they're not going to be able to pitch and play defense well enough to be a playoff contender. So if the offense doesn't come, it's going to be a lost season. I do believe it will get better. I do also agree, though, that if you let things go too far and guys don't get hot soon, it's going to be a difficult road for them because there's other teams in other divisions, particularly in the National League West, not so much in the National League East and the Central, but those other teams in the West are good enough to be able to, take up those playoff spots that are available. And so as far as wild card is concerned, so you can't let it happen, let it go too long. And these guys just have to get hot and start swinging the bats the way I believe that they can. I think the front office believes they can. We went through this, I think, in 10 or 11, where we had an awfully slow start to our offense, and you just felt like at some point they'd start clicking. I think we actually made a change in our hitting coach, and I don't know if that was the reason why we got better, but I think it's just because the players just started to hit better. But we made a change, and they started going. I'm not suggesting that by any means that there should be a change made within the coaching staff. What I'm suggesting is that these guys have to start making adjustments and playing to their baseball card, or it's going to be really tough for the Phillies to overcome some of the other inconsistencies that they have defensively and on the mound.
Yeah, you mentioned, you brought it up, making a change. And, sometimes a change can just wake up a team. It can startle a team. It can take them by the lapels and shake them, It's almost like, rolling a cannonball in there and, it just clears everybody's head. It's no secret Joe's in the last year of his deal. They didn't pick it up. Clearly it's kind of earn it. They didn't pick up his option. I am not at the moment a proponent of a change, but if they keep spinning their wheels and they're close enough where the wild card and everything's within reach, I wonder if that's a card Dave Dombrowski might play just for the sake of startling and waking up and like shock value, throwing the iron or the hairdryer in the tub, just getting it.
Yeah, I totally understand that thought process. I do not think that is. Listen, I'll tell you who gets managers fired. Players get managers fired, and players make managers look really smart. The reality of it is the players need to play. They need to play better. There's a reason why they're on the team. I think that there's times when player personnel moves can shock a team as well. And I think in this situation, there's some players on this roster that probably should not be on the roster, and a move may have to be made as far as that is concerned. And maybe that's the reason, people get, jump started a little. Perhaps that gets them going in one way, shape, or form. I just don't feel like it's fair at this stage of the game to be pointing fingers at the staff and the manager just because we haven't seen the players play the way they can play. And I do believe they're better. I do believe that they will get better. But if they don't get better soon, it's going to be too late, and they're going to drift so far behind that mentally it may be pretty tough to get back into it.
I 100% agree with you. It's on the players. Managers get way too much credit. way too much blame. But there are nights when I see a sleepwalking team. I mean, last night that play where, the catcher threw the ball and the shortstop missed it, second baseman missed it. Oh, and the center fielder missed it too. And the go-ahead run scores from first base without the ball being put in play. That's not the manager, but it makes the manager look bad. It makes it look like he has a team with its head up at you-know-what. I mean, that just makes it, the players executed that play poorly. They've scored 1 or 0 runs 11 times and lost all those games. I mean, 1 run 6 times.
To me, that is one of the more incredible parts of, and you can talk about the pitching all you want, but for this team that has several guys that with one swing of the bat can go deep, the fact that they've lost that many games in that fashion is a little astonishing to me. It's almost unfathomable.
Yeah.
With the kind of talent and the ability that these guys have.
But that's not on Joe. Joe's not swinging the bat.
He is not. He cannot take the bat up there for him. He cannot make a pitch for him. He cannot make a play for them. And by and large, these are major league players. And I think that I think they're better. I just don't think they're playing better.
I agree. And JT Realmuto was talking about that Wednesday night, that, and Harper the night before, we need to be better. We need to play better. They need to rack up some type of a streak here. And they've been getting very good, solid starting pitching. Last 34, 35 games, the ERA is under 3.5. I mean, with this offense, you should be scoring 4 or 5 runs a game. I mean, you should be winning a lot of ball games with that.
I agree with it, Jim. I made the prediction that I thought that this team had an opportunity to score close to 800 runs. And what have they been scoring over the last several years? Between 650 and 700 runs. I really honestly believe that they have the ability to do that. I think that them not having a legitimate number one hitter, I think that takes away a little bit of that ability to do that, just because even though Rhys Hoskins can get on base, he's not your typical, leadoff guy. They don't have a lot of team speed. You're not going to see a lot of action. It's a little bit station to station. And I think that kind of takes away from some of their offensive prowess. But you would think that they have. I mean, they've hit the ball hard. Their slugging percentage is at the top of the league or close to it. It just has to happen more because of the nature of the setup of the club.
Yeah, no question. Well, maybe they can. They've only won, I think, 4 series, and I think they've lost 10 or 11. It's hard to fathom. So they need to win here on Thursday night. I mean, it's hard to keep the days straight. So they need to win on Thursday night to get a split here in Atlanta and avoid, I think, their 11th or 12th series loss. I wrote it last night. I can't remember, but so you need to come out of here, or else you're going to lose another series. Oh, and if they don't win on Thursday night, there'll be a season high 5 games under 500. And we talk about the 5 shutouts and the 6 1-run games. I mean, being 5 under 500 with these track records, with this payroll. To me, it's troubling. I mean, it's beyond being a head scratcher. I was going to say that it's really troubling. So I think it's important. Hey, it's important you win every night. It's a dumb.
Yeah, no question. And listen, they have to support the starting pitching and Aaron Nola, who's probably got the least amount of support in the entire league. I think he's 5th worst in run support, and he's pitched really well. Very consistently. He just hasn't had a whole lot of room to breathe.
Yeah.
And it seems like every mistake he makes is compounded by the fact that they're not scoring any runs for him.
Every mistake he makes, he pays for it. Every pitcher makes mistakes. It's just you got to give these guys some cushion. So
Agreed.
They need to win on Thursday night to avoid going 5 under. I think that would be a troubling mark for them. And then it gets no easier. They go to New York over the weekend for the Mets, right back against the Mets. We've seen a ton of the Mets. They're really good. They've had a bunch of key injuries, but they play through them with this resolve and this, okay, we'll keep on winning. They've been very impressive. And I think a lot of that goes right back to that very business-like guy that brought in Buck Showalter. I don't know about you, but he, to me, as whether or not it's going to be one of these long-lasting impacts that last 3 or 4 years, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, for 2 months here, opening 2 months of the season, I think he's had a big impact up there.
Yeah, they literally made a 180, and you can talk about the acquisitions they made. I think the Chris Bassett one was a huge one for them for their rotation. The fact that they brought in guys like Escobar and Marte. I mean, they're good, solid baseball players, right? They play baseball and they can do some different things. But I will tell you that no one has had more impact on that organization as a whole, in my mind, after having been in that organization. They needed a person like Buck Showalter. They got that person in Buck Showalter. And what you're seeing now is some of the players playing not just for themselves, which is what they were doing for several years because that's all they seem to care about. They're now playing for the team. And they're playing team baseball, which is something that Buck Showalter will always try to foster with his clubs. And you're seeing a level of professionalism that the Mets have not had in a long, long time, probably since Terry Collins was at the helm. And that's how I would equate it.
Well, we're going to see that very professional outfit on Friday night. But one more to go here in Atlanta. The Phillies, I would say, desperately need one. A struggling team turns its lonely eyes to Aaron Nola. So that's going to be Thursday night, and Aaron Nola is going to need some run support. But, Ruben, thank you for the run support you brought to this podcast. Outstanding insights. You were delicious.
Anytime, Jim. I love talking baseball with you. I know how passionate you are about the game, and it's fun to talk baseball anytime, anywhere, any day.
All right. And thank you to the listeners who logged on to Phillies Talk. We'll catch you in a few days with Corey Seidman. He'll be back feeling ready to paint the corners. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.